Welcome, everyone, to And Then They Wondered podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about living in light of death. Super, super important topic. I'm really excited about it.
I am really excited for today's podcast.
Yes.
There's an ancient philosopher, Epictetus, that said that it's not death that we should fear, but never having lived.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in the previous episode, we talked a little bit about death and dying rituals culturally and across time. And so, giving yourself the permission to mourn and also remembering that how we view death is how we live our lives. And so we're going to dive into that a little bit deeper.
And then they wonder. How do you feel like working in hospice has affected the way that you think about living, dying, all of that?
Yeah. So for me, hospice has really affected more than anything my children, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, it's interesting because before I started working in hospice, I worked in the ICU, and we would have some deaths, here and there that were actually not peaceful. They were a little bit dramatic.
Mhm.
And I remember one instance, my son was almost having a panic attack, realizing like, oh, death is like, that's it. And he was like, I don't want to die. And just kind of like getting overwhelmed and freaked out about it. And there was a lot of like helping him calm down from that. And then when I stepped into the role of hospice nurse, we kind of had to talk about death. Well, I mean, my husband and I, sometimes I would be like, um, you know, I just had a death today, or I have to go out for a death visit. And so the conversation around death kind of like expanded a little bit more in my house, and my kids just kind of learned to accept that as reality. So their, especially with my oldest, mentality shifted greatly. And he just was like, oh, that's just, so and so's dead. And when I die, hopefully it's not soon. And, we're like, no, you've got a long way to live. Hopefully not, anytime soon. But it's like the conversation with them has changed. And around the age that he had the panic attack, my daughter is now that age, and she's unfazed. And so it's one of those things where like it's a healthy thing to view it, even for kids. Like, this is what happens, but what are you going to do with your life today? Because that's what matters. Yeah. So I think
Yes.
it's like kind of helped train them to not take this life for granted, to live to its fullest at such a young age, which I think is so important, even for us, honestly.
Mhm. I think that's so interesting. I hadn't really thought about, but for sure, having those conversations in the household of just mom working with death or going on a death visit, or this is what happens, or this is what happened. I think those have definitely shifted our perspective as a wider family
Yeah.
view rather than just how it's affected me. I do think it's interesting. We're labeling this like living in light of death,
Yeah.
and it's living in light of death instead of living in fear of death,
Yeah.
which I think is really good because it is just almost like the entrance into the next phase,
Mhm.
and not having to fear it, but being able to face it with courage is probably the first step towards living that really full, rich, vibrant life that I think we all want.
Yeah.
Um,
How do we prepare for it well, right?
yeah.
Like it's an everyday thing that I'm preparing for the inevitable. Like, even when I get into my car, though, I feel like it's affected the way I even drive.
Yes.
And I'm not so reckless. I'm careful. I'm looking at all of my mirrors,
Mm-hmm.
and just being mindful, and kind of being more vigilant. Like, my life isn't something to take for granted,
Mm-hmm.
and my children either,
Mm-hmm.
and so just kind of keeping those things in mind. Like, little things have really changed and shifted for me living in light of death.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think it makes you value your life so much more.
Hmm.
And at the same time, not like you often talk about hold it so tightly that you just squeeze the air out of it.
Yeah.
There's in some of our research we came across, or I think I don't remember which one of us read it, but and I might say it wrong, Bhutanese culture,
Yes.
they encourage kind of as part of their worldview or their cultural conversation, people to think about death 5 times a day
Mm.
because they say it reduces your ego,
Hmm.
your attachment to this world, to the physical, and then ultimately gives you a wider perspective.
Yeah.
There's so much, life is so much bigger than just our bodies. I think most of us live our life so like we think we are our body.
Yeah.
We say, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm gonna get dressed, I'm gonna go to the store. Well, is that all there is to you? Because at some point you are going to leave your body you are going to go on to whatever's next, and your body's going to remain.
Yeah.
And I think so often we not that we need to live life separate from our body, but we let ourselves think that our physicality is all there is.
Yeah.
When there's so much more.
So much more.
So.
And you kind of do see that when you're sitting at somebody's bedside, day in and day out, and they're talking to you about their regrets. They're talking to you about their dreams. They're talking to you about, their gratitude. And I think that those are kind of important to highlight because we did see kind of recurring themes whenever you and I discussed this. A lot of people had very similar things to share at end of life.
What their regrets are and what they're proud of, and also what their family is proud of, what their family wants to tell us about, because there's usually several hours or a couple, hours between when a patient passes and when the actual funeral home arrives. And often we're hanging out with the family, looking at pictures, talking about the patient's life, doing some review over what was really meaningful, what meant something to them. And so some of these things were surprising to me. Honestly.
Yeah.
But
Me too.
I have to say they have 100% changed the way I live my life, what I value, what I think is important, how I want my life. Not even just to go, like it's made me let go of a lot of the control that I had.
Yes.
Over
Absolutely.
things that aren't going to matter. Nobody when I die or when you die is going to sit around and tell the hospice nurse what everyone thought of you.
Right.
They're not going to rehearse. They're not going to rehearse if you were impressive or not to other people at large. And we've taken care of some people who were well known.
Yeah, that's true. We've taken care of people that, have lived through all walks of life, rich, poor, everywhere in between, well known, not well known.
Lived through wars, lived through famines,
and
escaped. Took care of one patient who had to escape, like on foot, live in a cave, and then take a boat, row the boat themselves with their siblings to get out of their country.
Wow.
Just
Yeah.
crazy situations and lives. And honestly, people, your loved ones, they're going to want your hospice nurse to know about the moments when you were really brave and about what you really loved. So let's go through some of those things.
Yeah. The first one is people.
Yeah.
I have had so many stories of they just really loved people and they just were very kind to everyone. Nobody ever talks about, oh, look how much money they made or look how successful they were really, unless it was something to do with people.
Or something that they loved. I mean, I have had people who were maybe the first woman to do something that she really loved, maybe a sport she loved or a hobby she loved, and she was the first woman to actually do that. Or maybe maybe they loved education and learning and they were the first of their family to graduate from college. Things like that, they're definitely going to tell us about
huge accomplishments like that are that they can be proud of. And it wasn't even like, because you have had first, but that's not something that they wanted for themselves. Like maybe their family wanted, and that's not something that they talk about.
They're not going to tell us about that.
Not really, no. It's usually, this is something that I wanted for myself and I did it and I accomplished it. So the people, the accomplishments,
if it was something that the person was very passionate about,
that were fulfilling, the relationships that really like changed lives. Like there was one that said, I didn't realize how much they loved people and how meaningful they were to their loved ones. I mean, the funeral home was packed. It was just amazing.
How many lives were touched?
You
don't always see that until you get to that funeral and then everybody is there and you realize, man, it seemed like this person in my life, like, oh, they were just my mom, they were just the one in the kitchen making me my sandwiches for school or whatever, but they were behind the scenes just lighting up so many lives
and so humble about it, because like a lot of times the family's like, I had no idea. So that was really cool. I actually had several instances like that. Hobbies, that people want to talk about. Like I had one patient that built model airplanes and trains out of cans.
Oh, that is so unique. That's so
everywhere
cool.
in the house. They were like, and every single time I would come over, they would show me and they would be like, look at this and look at that. And so proud of it. And pretty much all that they ever talked about, but it was just really cool to see. And he says, sometimes I would go and I'd sell them for, and the thing that was fascinating to me is this is such a unique talent. You probably could sell it for more. And he wasn't going to make a quick buck. He was just like, I sold it for 5 cents to a kid or whatever.
Wow.
Just because he
Just
could.
sharing the love. Here's my expression of love in the world, and I share it freely. That is beautiful.
It was so
and
cool.
It's different for everyone, like what that is, but really finding that thing, knowing whether that is that you love to cook meals for people and enjoy them around the table, or you love to quilt and make baby quilts for people, or you love to create model airplanes out of the most
Tin
unlikely
cans.
sources
I know.
and share that love. I've had the same thing. I've had patients who restored old cars, and two times actually in particular, their sons, like after the patient passed, they took me out, showed me the cars, like wanted to, and told all the stories. Yeah, we took it here and we did this with it, and when I was 7, my dad helped and I worked with him and we rebuilt the engine on this like old car or whatever. And it's their moments that they're so proud of this person's life are these things that they did together, doing what they loved. Yeah.
These
They did this
lasting
other
memories.
job. They worked a job that they didn't hate. They're not telling me about that. They're going to tell us about the things that were really meaningful about that person and the way that it's the way their soul expressed its love in the world.
And I think it's just like the memories that were built, whether it was like a huge success or not. They're like, but this was like my creative outlet and I love to do it. And the generosity around that, honestly, too, was beautiful to see. So I think a lot of times relationships, generosity, kindness, you can't go wrong with either one of those.
That's true. I've also had patients who were incredibly talented at something that they did love, but they never were able to beat the demons of addiction or the fear that made them put that on the back burner and just chase money or things like that. And that's always a totally different story.
Yeah. Or when you prioritize things that probably shouldn't be prioritized because maybe this world told you that that's what you were supposed to do. And we can easily fall bait to that, sadly. But that's why living in light of death can kind of give you that better perspective, because I'm not going to be buried with the millions that I make. I mean, I'm not making millions, but figure of speech. So, and I did have one patient one time at end of life expressed, I have all this money and I don't have any heirs. Did it matter?
Yeah.
And not to say that everybody has to have children, of course. It's more to say that instead of investing in other things like relationships or hobbies or things that you love or whatever ambitions that you wanted to pursue, instead we're like, I need to make the most money ever to live a really good and comfortable life right now. At the end isn't going to matter.
Did you put off living?
Yeah.
Actually, like, I think there's, especially, maybe it's everywhere, but especially I see it a lot in the West. There's this idea of like, save for retirement, work hard now, save for retirement, and your life is always going to start some other time. When I do this, when I do that, when I get this, when I have this much in the bank, when I have this much in retirement, then I'm going to start living. When the economy is better, when investments are up, when I get the role I want, like I'm always going to, at this some other time in the unknowable, uncontrollable future, I'm going to.
But it's never going to be enough.
Live the love that's in my heart to live. And you're never going to get there that way. No. You have to prioritize. I think there's this switch of the people who really lived a good life. They made their love the center of their life.
Yeah.
And then everything else flowed out from that. And if they worked a job that was just okay so that they could focus on the things they really loved, they typically never regret that. I've never had somebody regret that. I've never had somebody be like, oh, I wish I hadn't worked that job. But people who stayed in a job for years, saved up retirement, all of that, and have the cozy retirement, but they never let their love breathe in the world. It's always a totally different story. It's always disappointing.
I had one patient that I took care of, had that same mentality. When I do this or when I get there, I will get to do all of these things that I want, was waiting for retirement, saved like a bunch of money, and then found out shortly after retirement that they had congestive heart failure and were no longer able to travel. So all that money saved to get to do all the things went to treatment essentially. And it was sad because actually they told me, like, don't wait to live your life
Mm-hmm.
until you're retired.
Mm-hmm.
Go, if you want to go travel now, do it now. You know, take the time, take the vacation, do it. And I just was like, that has been so impactful for me, honestly, from the advice that this patient gave me. Because, you know, and then you'll be like me at retirement instead of getting to, you know.
Yes, we're not guaranteed any time. And we don't want to go to the grave with love still on the table. I think I had one patient who was very well, like we would have thought of them in human measurement of success as extremely successful in their field. And they were, you just think about like, okay, getting to the top of the ladder career wise. That's what this person had done. And when they were passing away, when we knew it was time to pass away, the story that the patient and their family wanted me to know for sure was about a time when, unrelated to that very fancy, very successful, I think they enjoyed it, career, was about the time that they volunteered at a local prison and ended up meeting someone who had been wrongly convicted and spent years fighting to get that overturned. And they were able to get this person who was wrongfully convicted out of prison.
What a cool
And
story.
get it overturned. And that was the story. Unrelated to, like, they had accomplished all this, like, they were like top tier at what they did.
Yeah.
But that's not what we talked about. It was about this moment where they volunteered and it was just this like kismet meeting that then changed the trajectory of both their lives forever.
That is crazy. I mean, it's just like you said, the outpouring of love and what can result from that and come from that is so cool. Absolutely
Exactly.
fascinating.
Exactly.
When you take the lens and you turn it outward and say, I'm going to choose to love this person and love them well, the things that can happen, you know, are
I wonder what would happen
amazing.
if we as humans stopped thinking so much of ourselves as I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm my body, and thought of ourselves as our love and lived like that in the world. I wonder how it would change things. I wonder what we'd do different.
That's our challenge. Let's
All
love.
right. I love it. What's up next?
Let's love. So courage, the moments of courage that are usually more defining than we realize. I think for everybody that kind of looks a little bit different. You know, so like the first one we talked about love and relationships. The second one was the courage. Like, did they step out to do something courageous, for example?
And like you said, for everybody that's different. I think that we all have this wiring that's like what we would tend to do. Maybe for some people, they would just naturally turn inward and like be quiet and do the safe and secure thing. And then for other people, they're like, I'm gonna go off and do, you know, the adventures and things like that. And then, but I'm never gonna like have the courage to like stay in a relationship for the hard parts. And for other people, it's like, I would never leave the relationship, even if it's super, super toxic.
Yeah.
So I think it's defining what is courage for you. What is the opposite of what you would naturally do? That might be your courage.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, well, even if it's something like really big or really small, whatever it may be in the eyes of whoever, it doesn't matter. It's the individual who that courage is really for them or for their family or for you know the people that they love. Stepping out in courage could even mean what that patient did to try to free that person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. This was not like their thing. I mean, they told me at that time, they were like, somebody invited them to the prison and they were like, no, that's not really my thing. And then they went and it was this whole life-changing event
That's cool.
that was the moment they felt like I lived my destiny in that moment, you know? It's not for some people, it's the courage to ask for help when you're struggling with an addiction or something like that. It's these little things. Our most courageous moments are not often the big moments. Courage is so often quiet.
And I think that courage can be something that you do every day.
Exactly. For sure. I think it happens in those little moments of having the courage to apologize, to repair a relationship, or sometimes when a relationship is really unable to be repaired, having the courage to set the boundary. So often we'll have, I don't know for you, but for me, I've had a lot of moms, maybe specifically who were in abusive relationships, and their kids often recount the time that the mom had the courage to protect them. And you know, naturally she was just going to take it. So often comfort, what we know, even if it's horrible, is feels like it's going to be better than the
I had the opposite happen where I had somebody that didn't leave that should have, and the kids were terribly resentful.
that she never protected them. She never protected
she never had the
herself.
courage to do that. And so they were so angry and resentful, and it was very heartbreaking because, I mean, they were still there, but they had this grudge, like you should have. And to not have that courage, or to have the courage, will really follow you to your deathbed
Exactly.
and beyond.
Yes. I think having the courage to do the hard thing for you. I think what's the hard thing? That's like the big question. What's the hard thing for you? Is the hard thing for you to speak up, or is the hard thing for you to be quiet? Is the hard thing for you to apologize, or is the hard thing for you to explain why somebody needs to apologize and have that conversation and stay in the tension of that? Is the hard thing for you to step out and not be scared and do something brave, or is the hard thing for you to like maybe
Be still.
be still?
Yeah.
Maybe not always need to be doing, and actually come home to yourself. Whatever courage looks like.
Yeah, like sometimes the hard thing too is just to be generous.
That's a big one. Yes.
I've had lots of stories of that, the generosity or lack thereof. And it doesn't necessarily have to be with money. Like it could just be with time and talents, expressions of love. And when people step out in courage to be generous with those things, it does make a huge difference and a change in yourself. It's defining. It changes you and those around you.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I think a big one on this one, honestly, I have to say, people not having or having the courage to deal with and find healing for addiction.
Yeah.
That's one that comes up so often.
That
and
is one that comes up a lot.
If they didn't find that courage in this lifetime, it's typically always a really hard death with very broken relationships.
Or no relationships.
No, that's quite often.
I have seen that a
the
lot.
most common
It's
thing.
really sad.
Yes. But if there's also so many stories where, they'll say, oh, my dad was an alcoholic until I was born, or, my mom was addicted to drugs and then they got clean. And the people who had the courage to fight that battle, again, it's the little things.
It is the little
things. It seems that you're not changing the world, it seems like, but you are changing the world.
But
because
you are.
The you that is the best version of you, that has the courage to fight for being the best version of you, changes the world.
Yeah.
It has a ripple effect generationally.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
It's a powerful thing.
More than you will ever realize, probably.
Yes. I don't think we ever know. At least not while we live in these bodies on this earth.
No.
We
Right.
don't know.
100%.
Yeah.
So, okay. So then that one was courage, which was, that was a mouthful. It was good though. And again, it looks different for everybody, like Becca was saying.
It does. What's courage for you? What's love for you? What does that look like for you if you were going to choose those things to live life that way, knowing that there's going to come a point where you don't get that choice anymore? Yeah. What does it look like?
Yeah. The next one is authenticity.
This again is like
the courage to be, so that's like living our lives in this world as the best version really of us that we can be. I think a lot of times people think I need to be authentic to myself and use that as an excuse to be selfish, versus I need to be authentic to myself but also be loving to those around me. I think the combination of the two is very telling of which route we took and how you are remembered in the end.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think authenticity is not just being the version of you that is broken, hurt, unhealed
Right.
in the world.
Exactly.
Just
That's a good point.
creating more hurt in the world. But when we have that courage to face those things that we are here to heal, there's so many, well, for all of us, I would say probably, I think every person, honestly, I haven't met every person in the world.
Yeah.
So I can't say this with
Not yet.
definitively, but every person that I've ever taken care of on hospice care and as a nurse and have known, we all have something that we're here to heal. We all have something that our courage, when we're courageous, we're going to overcome this in our life. And then living from the us that overcame, like our best self, living that truly and authentically without saying, oh, well, but my parents want me to be like this, or society will want me to be like this, or whatever, like without feeling that pressure to shrink that us.
Yeah. I think it's like living with purpose, really. Like you have a purpose, know your purpose, and live within that purpose. And that really is kind of the definition of authentic living, I would say.
And you really won't, most of us won't know our purpose, I don't think, until we've had the courage to take a real look at what is it that we're here to heal? What is it that we're here to overcome? What's our challenge? A lot of times our purpose lies in our challenge.
Yeah.
And we have to have the courage to face the challenge to then be able to even know who our authentic self is.
Yeah. You know, and we talk about like people read the self-help books, you know, that are in the world, the systems of the experts and all of that to try to find who you are. And a lot of times we really do need to be careful. It can kind of steer you in the wrong direction depending on like the source. But also just like, and that kind of comes back to being your true self in spite of what you think it is or what other people are telling you it is, which I think we can be easily influenced by if we're not careful. That goes back to loving well and being courageous, because a lot of times stepping out in that courage to be your authentic self is going to be an uphill battle.
I think if you know, like if you stay kind of like, I hadn't thought about this when we wrote this down.
Yeah.
But if you were to say love is the center, like the center of the wheel, I'm
Yes.
going to build my life on non-selfish, authentic, real love. I'm gonna find that. I'm gonna live life like that, and then from there, I'm gonna have the courage to deal with, get help for, find solutions for, relentlessly work on the things that stand in the way of pure true love
Yeah.
being expressed in my life. Then from there, you will automatically live an authentic life.
I was just going to say that.
It's just gonna happen.
It is going to
Your
happen.
purpose is gonna come. It's just gonna organize. Life is gonna organize in a way, because so often we live life and it's like, you should buy this and you need to have skin like this and you need to make this kind of money and you should write on the full moon the amount of money that you want to make on a slip of paper, and you know what I mean? Like there's
get
just
lost in a
all
lot.
this noise coming in all the time that's just do this, buy this, achieve this, get this certification, do this job, get this education, and it can be so disorienting that honestly, for a lot of people, I think all they can do at this point is just kind of go numb. How can I not feel the overwhelm of this? And that's an option. The other option is to get quiet and to find that center of love.
I think a good question to ask is, how can I love someone well today?
That's really good.
And several times a day, honestly.
5 times a day.
5 times a day. I sit there one time and I was driving, and like most of us have a bit of road rage. But I was driving and this person like pulled out in front of me, and you could tell that they felt bad and they were like, sorry, you know. And in that moment I was like, I'm not gonna honk my horn. Like, it's fine. Like, it's okay. And in a way, that's me loving them well, because I didn't make them feel bad for something they already knew they did wrong. So, I mean, it's going to be something that little. And I almost really felt proud of myself for that. Because I'm like, good for me, pat on the back.
Exactly. You know? It's that moment of, what would I normally do? I'm going to do something different.
Yeah. And where I'm loving somebody.
Yes. Yeah. And I think I think that is really good, because you're going to learn about yourself in the way that you love others.
Yes.
If you say, how can I be kind? How can I be generous? How can I be loving to someone today? How can I live that out into the world? You're going to learn so much about what you love, what's fulfilling, what your purpose is. You're going to find your purpose.
And you are going to find your purpose. I was literally just going to say that.
Yeah.
We are on the same page here.
We're synced up.
Yeah, we are. We're gonna find that purpose, and then you're gonna come to the end, and these are the stories that people will share, and about you and your loved ones. These are the stories because you lived life in light of death.
Yes.
You thought, if today is my last day, it's so cliche. You hear that all the time. But if you really do begin, and I think for us, it was easier to live that because we were kind of confronted with it all the time. But even if you do begin to think, okay, if I were to die today, how can I live my life well today? And a lot of times that is, how can I love someone well today? Because from that, the outpour of courage and authenticity will just automatically happen.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think so often in our culture, there's this tendency to just look at ourselves and we shrink the world to the size of ourselves.
Yes.
And you're never, ever, ever, I don't think, going to find your way to who you were truly meant to be and the life you're truly meant to live by just thinking about yourself and what you need and what you want and what comes next for you.
Because we're social creatures, right?
We're meant to be in community. I mean, I think one of the conversations, I think we've said this before on this podcast, but you brought this up, that we're like the only species that does like birth in community and death in community. Like everybody else, their dogs, cats, whatever, they'll go off and do that by themselves. But we are built for community. And
Well, we need help with being birthed and
Yeah.
dying. Yeah.
we're not going to like,
Because we're meant to be doing this together.
we're not kind of like what we talked about in the last episode too. We're not separate from our environment, from the people around us.
Right.
We're not like as individuals we like to think, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Right.
I took a long road around.
I liked it. I like the road.
We're not as separate as we would like to imagine.
Yeah. And that's not a bad thing. That's actually a really, really good thing, especially because it does take help to die, and to die peacefully and well. You really do want somebody that really loves you and cares for you and wants to nurture you during your final moments to be at your bedside. There are situations and possibilities where we do have to have the help of, other outside staff and sources, and that's okay. But I think being able to say, I'm going to go and sit at my mom's bedside because she was a person that lived her life well, and it just seeps through. It can be very beautiful for everybody, for you and the people around you, and having the mentality that, oh, I'm just living for myself, can be detrimental really in the end.
It will always, I've never seen somebody who lives for themselves who had a good death.
No, me neither. Same.
It's always lonely and sad and not a good experience.
Yeah.
I've never seen that work. I've always seen people who were outward focused and really pouring life into the world around them. Those are the people who have a beautiful death, and there's really something to honor there.
I had like one patient that didn't really have family. I don't remember what all happened to their family, but as a result, they still chose to like love and live within their community. And it was they that were at the bedside,
I've
which
had that quite
was
often.
crazy. I was like, "You're not even related?" "No, I'm just a neighbor." But they were there. Like,
They were,
"No,
like,
I'm just
taking
like,
care of
I'm
them.
just a distant relative." Actually, no, she kind of adopted me. Like I was like, "What?" I mean,
I've had that happen quite often. I've also had people who they were maybe in a situation like their family of origin that they were born into was not a family that was going to be what they needed in the world, in their life, to fulfill their destiny, to live the life that they were meant to live. They were not going to be able to be close with that family. And part of their life journey was breaking away from that family, but that led them to just this beautiful soul family.
yeah.
And they were just cared for by neighbors, by people from their communities that they were a part of, from their church, from wherever they had built a family that was true family. Family isn't just blood.
No, it can encompass so much more than that, and it should.
It should.
Really.
It should.
Yeah. So the most recurring themes, we want to talk about love. We want to talk about courage. We want to talk authenticity and like living out your purpose. And the primary one definitely is love. The last on the list in that totem pole, honestly, I would say is money.
Truly. Truly. People, I've taken care of.
And in a bad way. I mean, not in a positive way. Like money is not something that's like the farthest thing.
Exactly. I've taken care of patients who were for sure millionaires and patients who had really nothing. And none of them are talking about their money at the end.
None of them.
It's never happened. It's never happened. They'll tell me on both sides.
They'll have regrets about the money.
If they gave too much to get it, they will regret that.
Yeah.
If they sacrificed too much to get it. But I've also had people who had a lot of money at the end, but they also had beautiful family and friendships that they cultivated and relationships they cultivated and art that they cultivated, and they are fulfilled and it's peaceful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. So I think when you make money the center and the focus, rich or poor, it never comes out well. Like I've had patients that didn't have a lot of money, but they were still kind of obsessed with it and a little bit greedy, which is kind of weird to think about. But I have had very low income people be very, very greedy, and they just kind of shut the world out because they're so focused on where can I make my next,
For sure.
where can I get my break, and so how can I take advantage of everyone around me so that I can keep more and make more, even though they don't really have a lot. And that can really make somebody turn very ugly very quickly inwardly. And then you have the other side of the spectrum where they do have an abundance of money, but they were, you know, generous and still loving and still had like just the beauty around them. And then obviously everywhere in between. Like, essentially what I'm trying to say, a long roundabout way to do it, is of the things that we hear the most: love, courage, purpose, authenticity, way at the top. The things that people don't really dwell or care for is money.
It's the things that you can't take with you, or even really that they don't mean anything leaving them behind.
Exactly.
It's meaningless when you come to this part of your journey. It's just these other things, the intangibles, are the real thing. I think we often live our life again thinking about the tangibles, the physical, what we can see, what we can touch, as being real and as being the most real, but it's not.
No.
The most real is the intangibles. And we can then use the tangibles as a vehicle to live out the intangibles in the world, or we can live an unfulfilling life.
Yeah.
Those are our two choices.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Really, to wrap things up,
it
takes a lot of courage to live a good life.
It does.
But it's worth it. It's worth it. And honestly, I didn't write this down, but I'm just going to say it. Take the time to find the answers and do the work.
Yes.
You will not regret it.
Never.
Become the person that you were born to be. Become the love that you were supposed to bring to the world. You won't regret it. Life is short. We only get a little bit of time. In the grand scheme of humanity, our time in this body and this life is very small. And if we can become who we're meant to be, everything else will fall into place.
Everything else will fall into place.
You won't have to worry about anything else.
That's true. So as we wrap up this series on hospice care, we just kind of want to remind you guys, hospice is end-of-life care for quality of life, not necessarily quantity, although sometimes when we focus on the quality, we do tend to extend a little bit of quantity. But we're here really to support you, to keep you in the final days of you or your loved one. And we want to make sure that this is a conversation that gets brought up and talked about, not necessarily 5 times a day, but fairly regularly, so that you remember, I want to live my life well today so that when I am in hospice care, I can live a good and dignified death.
That's right. That's right. How you live today does absolutely influence that experience at the end.
Absolutely. So with that being said, thank you so much for going on this journey with us.
It's been a pleasure.
This was really fun.
Yes.
A little bit morbid, I know. I'm so sorry, but an important topic nonetheless.
Important topic.
Yeah.
I think, yes, very important. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. We will be having upcoming episodes on other topics coming out very soon. So like, subscribe, follow so you don't miss an episode.
And let us know what you wonder about. We can deep dive into that as well.
That's right.
See you next time.